Yeah.
All right, I think we're live, right? Hey guys. I think we've got a third host here. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, we got double Nelson. I like that. It's like is that a full Nelson?
Yeah, it's actually just us being cheap and using the same Zoom account for
Oh, I love it.
for our success webinars and everything. So, hey guys, so I think we're live now. My name is Nelson Quest. I'm the CEO, founder of AgentFire. I'm here today with Chris Smith. I'm a huge fan of Chris. If you guys have been to any of our webinars over the last couple of months, I bring up the Chris list in virtually I find a way to bring that up in virtually every every webinar. It's my favorite email that I'm subscribed to. You guys are probably familiar with Chris. He's the founder of Curator, which used to be somewhat of a competitor of ours. As you can see, though, it's a way to still be friends, even if you're competition. But these days, he's working on Ella Email, which is a fantastic newsletter service. We'll be shooting a message into the chat every 15 minutes or so with information on that. You guys should definitely check it out. And then also Beacon with the other co-founder of Curator,
Mhm.
Jimmy Mackin. So in addition to Curator, I mean, Chris has a long list of he's an author. You guys have probably heard of Conversion Code is his most popular book. That was actually a book that really inspired me to get more to level up my game with real estate marketing in particular. There was a lot of recommendations in that book that I then followed. One of them was what's that guy's name? Donald Storybrand, which
Yeah,
like
Donald Miller.
yeah, that totally like
Hmm.
changed opened my eyes to just a new way to think about marketing. And so yeah, I could go on listing Chris's pedigree, but what I'd like to do is now shift into just talking about what the webinar today is, which is how to turn your list into listings. So Chris, you want to maybe
Hmm.
take over and
Yeah, no, thanks. Great introduction. And I'm curious to know. So like it's funny with Ella and with Beacon, the two companies that I'm running, we're not looking to, you know, I feel like we've earned a reputation for being innovative and creative. And, Jimmy and I are really well known for being, really good at marketing and branding. But the things we're doing is like email newsletters, like it's not revolutionary, right? But it's the most important thing you can do, which I'll share some stats here in a second. And then Beacon is like streamlining communication between you and the seller while their home's listed. So like we definitely like have this like mind for innovation, and we want to like create things that don't exist. It's really important for us that we are the genesis of the good idea, kind of let everyone else copy us. But we're innovating on things that really matter, you know? And so what I want to know, like really quickly in the chat, it's October, as of the recording here. I want to know in the chat how many, and I'm going to give some caveats, original, high quality, like how many email newsletters have you sent your database so far this year? Be interested to see what some of the answers are. I think, in my opinion, the minimum should be 10 because it's month 10. Some people are more aggressive, Nelson. They'll send two a month or one a week. Like we definitely work with clients at Ella that we do weekly. Never recommend people start that way. But it's crazy. Like, and I don't know if is the chat on. Yeah. Usually we get a couple of
um,
answers when we ask.
it's probably turned off right now. Song, if you could
Yeah.
turn it
Oh
on.
no, it
Yeah.
looks like people are sneaking their answers into the Q&A. Chat's disabled.
Yeah.
But
There we
yeah,
go.
whenever the chat gets working, just let me know. And there's going to be people, Nelson, that the answer is zero. There we
Yeah.
go. Dano says 10. So we'll get some answers pumping in. Zero, Alessandra, 25. So that's, two a month or so. Zero from Sherry, zero from Henry. And I'll tell you what, like I would normally ask, why not? Why aren't you sending a great email newsletter? Like, but I already know the answer, Nelson, because I talk to so many people that we help with this. People are very, very guarded with what they send their past clients and their SOI. Like If you're emailing a lead, like I'm going to give away templates that all of you guys can send. Todd's sending quarterly. Like I'll give you guys email templates that are just kind of like swipe and steal. But when it comes to like past clients that you've worked with and the people that send you referrals and the people that you want, business from, it takes a lot of time to do it right. And so I kind of like say, you know what, if you have to decide whether to be cheesy or invisible, be invisible, because the last thing you want is sending some crap that doesn't sound like you. Like the state of the union on email newsletters in real estate is that there's a huge opportunity. I believe that at the end of this workshop, 82 minutes from now, I believe that you guys can have by far the best email newsletter in your city. And I don't even just mean real estate agent. I mean, if I live in East Orlando, if I live in Avalon Park, if I live in Brazelton, Georgia, if I live in Atlanta, right? I think you can have the best email newsletter, period. And the upside of that is tremendous. Obviously, you become kind of the digital mayor. But yeah, now I will say, Cindy said it takes a lot of time. And that's true, but it takes less time than ever thanks to AI. So the ability for AI to help us, not to do it for us, at Ella, we're using AI, but the human involvement is critical. And yeah, like even if you like, I just wrote the Chris list. Thank you, Nelson, for the compliment. I just wrote it right before this call, Tuesdays at 2. I write it every Tuesday so that it's fresh when it goes out. It takes me 2 to 3 hours, and I'm on like Chris list number 200 because I want it to be great. And I'm going to kind of walk you guys through what does that really mean? Where can the AI help us make it amazing, make it sound like us, right? All these things that are really important. But there will be no excuses after the call today. So I'm going to share my screen here. Nelson, just if you can confirm, can you
Yep.
see
Yep.
the email marketing is dead?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
ironically, it dies every year. Every year, if you go into Google 2020, 2022, 2023, email marketing is dead. Email marketing is dead. I think that at a high level, bad marketing is dead. But that would be appropriate to YouTube, social media, a bad script, like bad postcards, a bad website. Like, so I would agree that like average is no longer going to stand out. I think you have to be excellent to break through the noise because obviously the internet's very noisy. But I want you guys to look at the actual stats around email marketing. Number one, it has the highest ROI of any digital channel, 36 to 1. So people ask, what's the ROI? It's 36 to 1. So, as an example, if you were to give Ella $500 a month, you should expect to get 36x 500, right? Like it's that big. The other thing is it's way more effective at converting people into becoming a customer than social media. It's 40 times more effective than social media for customer acquisition. It's actually fairly simple. You generate leads through social and search, and you convert leads through email, phone, and text. That's the whole game. The other thing is like social media, you probably run into this, Nelson, like they don't want links. Like as soon as you put a link in a post, as soon as you put a link in a tweet, they bury it because they want people staying on their website. So, but email, you get a lot of clicks. So you can send traffic to a place that you want. The last two, the bottom middle, 63%. This is a big one, especially if you guys have a big database of past clients. 63% of past clients said they're more likely to refer their agent if they send them regular emails and keep in touch. And leads that you nurture with email are 7 times more likely to convert versus kind of leaving them there. So the beauty of a newsletter is that and I'm going to show you guys like there's times where you do want to segment your list. Segmenting your list can be really powerful. But the beauty of an email newsletter is you don't have to segment anything. You can send it to the whole database because it's great. Your past clients love it. Your sphere of influence loves it. Your mom loves it. Like my dad replies to the Chris list. Hey, son, I'm not even a realtor. That was cool. I learned a few things. Like you just want it to be great. So those are some of the numbers. A couple of the other numbers. If you target people with ads and emails versus one or the other, they're 21 times more likely to convert. You need to have people's attention everywhere. And I want to actually kind of prove my point here for a second. I want you guys to give me a thumbs up in the chat or a yes if you don't know how to do the emoji. Did you register for the webinar we're on right now because of an email? Please be honest so everyone else can see. Are you here today because of an email? Look at that, Nelson. Thumbs up. Yes, 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 right? And just kind of like, I'm going to call my shot a little bit here, but like some people are going to buy some stuff today. So that's kind of the whole point. If you do great, like Nelson and Lab Code Agents do a great job of providing high value content for free. And then Gary Vee, they throw a right hook occasionally, right? They say, hey, come to this live stream, come learn about this new product, come learn about our coaching, come learn about our conference. That's the whole game. But if people are not paying attention when you need to sell something, they're never going to see it. A couple other stats. I showed this one: email beats social by 40x for acquisition. A couple other things people will ask me quite a bit. What's a good open rate? You know, what should my open rate be? The number one impact on open rate is who sends the email. This is a big deal. So Nelson, he sees that it's from me, he opens it because he trusts me, he likes me, he knows I send good stuff. So I might spend time, and I do, and I'm going to teach you guys how to write amazing subject lines to get the most people possible to open them. But the most important thing of getting an email opened is actually who it's coming from. This is a chart showing as your list gets bigger, this is just sort of part of the email marketing game, your open rate and your click-through rates start to go down. But I've seen people, Nelson, that like we're working with Glenda Baker. She's a TikTok star. She has almost 1 million followers. Her database was 1,100 people in an Excel spreadsheet. She had no email marketing. Okay. We took her list, we put it in Beehive. We created a newsletter for her. It's called Oh My Stars. It's on brand. It's really good. This is not for realtors. This is for her past clients, her sphere, the people that live in Atlanta. Her first email got a 58% open rate. She had never even sent one before because it's from Glenda. People know her, they like her, they trust her. So that's really important. People ask us all the time, well, how can you help me with my open rate? We can move the open rate a little bit up or down, right? We can be clever and use good copy and use, really good verbiage to do that. But it's really going to be more about you than us in that example. The other thing is, how often should I send? And I think probably when I asked earlier, a bunch of people didn't send anything. Several people sent monthly. A couple people were sending bi-monthly, but it's pretty rare air to send weekly. I think that's like the rarest of the air. In fact, if you're not sending anything, or you're sending, like Todd said, he's sending quarterly, if that's your cadence right now and you try to hire Ella, we won't even let you sign up for weekly, because you can't go from quarterly to weekly, and you can't go from nothing to weekly. So most agents, your North Star should be, let me get this thing going out once a month and make it great. And then you can ramp up to 2 a month, and then you can ramp up to weekly. But what ends up happening is this is how many emails do people send per week, and how does that impact the open rate? So you can see it does drop off a little bit, but at the point that you're sending 4, 5, 6, like it kind of levels off. So don't be afraid to send way more often than you are. And then I talked about segmenting. I'm going to give you guys really specific segments that you should all create. And then I'm going to show you how the segments that you create should impact what you put in the email. Kind of like a 1-2 punch. But when you do segment, your open rate's higher, your click rate's higher, your unsubscribes is lower. So if Nelson sends me the list for this webinar after the call, and I send an email tomorrow to just this list, not my whole list, I say, hey, did you watch yesterday? What'd you think? That's going to perform way better than if I tried to send something to my whole database. So segmenting, higher open, higher click, lower unsubscribe. Another question we get a lot is just an easy nugget to remember. What time should I send my emails? And there's no universal truth, but the data says 2 to 5 p.m. is the best. The way I explain it is middle of the week, middle of the day. So I send every Tuesday and Thursday at 2 p.m. I think Tuesdays and Thursdays, Wednesday as well, middle of the week, they do better than Monday and Friday. Middle of the day, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. You're trying to hit that afternoon window when people have kind of gotten into work, they're getting back from lunch, they're kind of, zoning out a little bit, and they're looking for entertainment. A couple other last things here. Images. I get a lot of emails, Nelson, with listings, and it's just like all 20 photos in the email. That is a big no. If your goal is to get people to click and learn more about stuff, you have to leave some, anticipation. So like for a listing, if we're promoting a listing in a newsletter, we'll show the curb appeal shot, but the call to action will say to see 34 more pictures of this house, click here. Like you don't want to photo dump. And then lastly, you need to have variety. Like when I first started doing email marketing, and I'll show you guys how the industry has really evolved. Number one, people used to only send emails that linked to their own stuff. So to even do an email, you kind of had to like write a blog post or like have a YouTube video or a podcast. And then you would send an email about that. Well, if you give people one thing to click on, you'll get clicks, but when you give people a variety of options, basically the more links you have in the email, the higher the click-through rate will be. In the Chris list, I have inspiration, I have research, I have how-to articles. Like I give people a variety of options. And so that actually helps my click-through rate quite a bit. So the email newsletter industry is exploding. There's a couple newsletters I'll recommend here for you guys to subscribe to. One is called Morning Brew. I don't subscribe to Morning Brew. I subscribe to Marketing Brew. It's the same company, but it's the marketing stuff. But you can see Morning Brew, they sold their company for $75 million in less than 5 years. And all they were is an email newsletter. Like that's it. Like email newsletters are entire businesses. There's another great email newsletter called The Hustle. The Hustle was bought for $27 million by HubSpot. So, okay, why is HubSpot, a CRM, a website company, why are they buying a newsletter? Because that's marketing, that's media, that's attention. $27 million for The Hustle. The biggest acquisition was Axios. And what's crazy about this is Axios, if you go and look at Axios Local, it's literally hyper local email newsletters. Now they have a website and the content's on the website as well, but that's all it is. Axios got bought for $500 million. So these are big acquisitions for email newsletters. That kind of shows you how valuable they are. What I want you guys to do is think about what can your newsletter's brand be? And it doesn't have to be your name. It can be. Mine's obviously, like I have two. One's called the Chris List, but the other one's called Elevate. And that one's just laser focused on email marketing. Tim Ferriss, the guy on the screen there, his email newsletter has been consistent for years. It's called 5 Bullet Friday. So you know when you're going to get it. You know it's 5 quick bullet points. His newsletter is amazing. This is a guy named James Clear. Atomic Habits, pretty freaking big book. His newsletter's 321. 3 articles he found that were interesting, two tools he's using, and one quote that he was inspired by. So he's got a format, right? Very easy to work it in once you have a format. Mine is the Chris list, CHRIS. I'll show you that in a second. But, whether it's 5 Bullet Friday, 3, 2, 1, whether it's Oh My Stars, like it doesn't have to be the Glenda Gazette. I want to make that clear. But in many cases, it makes sense. We have San Francisco, it's called Brad's Blueprint. But in Brazelton, Georgia, it's called the Brazelton Buzz. But the point is, you want your newsletter to be a brand. You want to give it its own vibe. And just because people are always asking, Nelson, if you want to throw this in the chat, thechrislist.com is where you go to subscribe. So two things there. One, give it a brand. And then two, buy a domain name that helps you talk about it so people can go straight to subscribing. So a good example for a realtor, if you go to the brazeltonbuzz.com, that's literally a form to join Kathy's MailChimp, the brazeltonbuzz.com, BRASELTON, if you guys want to look at that. So for me, the Chris list, the CHRIS is the table of contents. It's basically an acronym. So content, how to, research, inspiration, and stats. And so I'm putting a variety of content into the newsletter. Like Nelson, since you're someone that reads the Chris list, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, I'm actually just genuinely curious. Like, do you find yourself like gravitating towards certain sections over others, or do you kind of read the whole thing?
No, I kind of read the whole thing.
Okay, that's a good answer. I
Yeah.
like that. I personally, because I'm the one researching and writing it, I love the inspiration section and I love the content section. Like the content section, the goal is that it's something so crazy that you would tell someone as soon as you read it. Like that's kind of what I think about is like, if I read this, would I tap someone on the shoulder and be like, did you hear about this? Inspiration is specific marketing campaigns that are amazing. And then I always, turn the corner how realtors can use those too. The craziest stat, because I have a lot of stats for my own list, but this is the craziest stat for me is that half of the people that open my email open it 2 or more times because they want to go back to it later. They know there's so much good stuff in there that they don't even delete it. They open it, they read it, they click on something, and then the next day they go back. 2 days later, they go back. So in a world where people can't even get their emails open, I'm getting mine open twice. I think that's a big deal. I'm very proud of that. So I want to walk you guys through. And Nelson, we're going to give away the replay, the slides, right? Are they getting everything today?
Yeah, within the next 24 hours, we'll have the replay up somewhere and we'll send that out. We'll send the slides and then anything else you wanna send. You mentioned
Okay.
something too about so you got a couple of books. I think you like to reward people who ask really good questions in the chat with copies of your books. Maybe you
Yeah.
wanna
Yeah. So I have
mention that
three
quick? Yeah.
books: People Work, The Conversion Code, and Exactly What to Say for Real Estate Agents. If you guys have questions throughout the workshop, drop them in the chat. Nelson will ask those, because you guys are not on camera here. He'll ask them for you. And anyone whose question he asks, I'll send you a free copy of my book. Any of the three, you can pick yours, and you just have to give us your shipping address, and that'll be just a thank you for asking a good question, not just asking any question. So we'll get into those. Take some hard stops, Nelson, and grab a few
Sure.
questions as we go. But I
I
want
also
to
had a
walk.
quick question
Yeah, sure.
before we get into. I had actually two things. One is another newsletter that just sold for a crap load of money is Barry Weiss has the free press, and it's
Correct.
primarily a newsletter. She's got the website and YouTube stuff too, but they just sold for $150 million to Paramount. And then I had a kind of a question for you, and I'm wondering what people in the chat think. I think there's
Mhm.
also like an extra unique opportunity for email content right now because I think a lot of people, at least I'm curious, like how many people do this. I do this. I use my email as a way to kind of curate a lot of the news that I consume now, because what's happening is I used to get a lot of stuff. I used to be able to just go to YouTube and watch stuff. And now I literally can't do that because the algorithm is just so messed up that it just wants to show me stuff that I'm going to click. And so it's not productive for me to go to YouTube. When someone shares a
Mhm.
YouTube link, I kind of end up, and I have very good willpower and discipline, but someone shares me a link to something on YouTube, and I just stay there and I click other things. I just can't freaking help it.
Mhm.
I'm pathetic. And so, same thing with Instagram, same thing everywhere. And so this is where, when I get the Chris list, I have my New York Times subscription. I subscribe to a bunch of different news, the Free Press by Barry Weiss, which I just mentioned. I'm kind of using my email as a way to kind of curate, and then in my
Mhm.
Gmail, I'm able to have all my so the Chris list, all my news subscriptions just come into I think it's the promotions, or not the promotions, the one of the tabs on Gmail.
Yep.
And so yeah, I'm actually using my email as kind of my front line for being able to curate the information that I consume. And I also just really I also think that right now there's so much crap. I mean, there's crap everywhere, and like we've heard about all the AI slop on Instagram, and there's just kind of crap everywhere. I think people are kind of looking for ways to help dial that stuff in with email. If you guys are anyone that's a real estate agent is probably getting so much spam and just like crap email. As the owner
Yeah.
of AgentFire, I get like 30 emails a day asking to buy AgentFire. I get like 40 emails that
Mhm.
they're using AI to try to like they think they sound unique,
Yeah.
like they're pulling like something from my website or something from my LinkedIn. And anyway,
I'm gonna
it's just
help
over.
you. I know what you're getting at. I'm gonna show you something
Go
super
for
cool because it's a little further ahead, but I'm just gonna jump to it because you're bringing it up now. So
sure.
I'm gonna talk about sources because what you're saying, Nelson, is like you need great sources to kind of inspire your own efforts, to not just to inspire your own marketing, but just learning, right? Kind of like staying on
Exactly.
ahead of the
I think there's
game.
like an
Hmm.
opportunity for that, and especially with real estate, where I get Glenda's newsletter. I get a couple of newsletters that clients send out that I get
Yep.
some of them that are just kind of run of the mill, and I'll usually unsubscribe, honestly. But then I get some of
Yeah.
them that I'm subscribed to, and they're actually like really good. There's one that I get, another one that I get from Glenda's area. It's in Buckhead, and I like
Hmm.
read all of those emails. I live in Colombia, South America, and I'm like thinking of freaking moving to Buckhead. Like,
Yeah. I know.
uh,
Yeah. So the problem that we're looking to solve would be you've got a crazy inbox with a million emails, a ton of junk, a ton of spam, client stuff. So this is actually a tool that I recommend called Meco, MECO, and they have a desktop and an iPhone and Android app. And this basically is an inbox for only email newsletters. So when you
oh
go
wow,
into the Meco app, picture if you went into Gmail and the only thing in there was the email newsletters that you're subscribed to. So that's a way to kind of get through all the clutter. Because once you have good sources, you just don't want them to get lost in the shuffle. So
yeah, that's great. Thank you.
MECO, yeah, it's they have a free option. All these guys have paid options, let's be honest, but I
Sure.
use the free one and it gets the job done. And yeah, I don't want to lose anything either. I mean, obviously, like you said, you have promotions tab, you have social tab, like Gmail tries to break it up, but it's tricky. So, when you read a newsletter that you love, there's an anatomy that has become like what I would kind of call the new newsletter. And there's sort of like a template everyone can follow. And this is kind of the beginning of it, which is some type of personal brand header, whether your newsletter is the Brazelton Buzz or Gino's Guide. I would definitely work myself into, a beautiful, simple header because you're wanting to just get people to see you every single week, right? Gino's Guide, Gino's Guide, Gino's Guide, Gino's Guide. The other thing is you want to have an opening blurb that is real time. So I do this on every email newsletter that I write. I never script the beginning. I basically just write what's happening now. So as an example, right now we're in the kind of the pre-launch phase for Beacon. And today the blurb in the Chris list was use the promo code Chris list, get a free trial for 14 weeks. get 20% off for life if you decide you like Beacon. And so I just kind of used that opening blurb. But last week's opening blurb, Nelson, was about this webinar. You know what I mean? Next week's opening blurb is about another live stream I'm doing about AI at the end of the month. And so the opening blurb for me is just sort of like timely, seasonal, like relevant, kind of written. Like I wouldn't really use the AI to do that part. And then there's a table of contents. And for Gino, his is a lot like the Chris list. I definitely inspired a lot of people to kind of follow my lead. GENO. Good to know. Those are the local events in Northern Michigan. Economy, he likes to talk about rates and financial markets. Notable news, those are the most trending articles and news stories about his area. And then on the market is the way that he incorporates in listings. So this would be kind of like the beginning of the newsletter. And then each section, it just sort of repeats. Like his is 4, mine's 5, Glenda's is 5, STARS. And so this is kind of what each section would look like. There's a title, good to know. There's a relevant graphic or image. So you do want to include some visuals for sure. One pro tip here is you can also include GIFs so that there's, people have always asked me for years, Nelson, how do I put a video in the email? Well, you can't because the file's too big, and you can do a thumbnail of the video and put a fake play button on it, right? But the reality is that if you want to convey motion in an email newsletter, you can. And I use 2 tools for that I'll show in a few minutes here. Then I have a headline. So you can see this headline, your mega guide to Northern Michigan fall events. And then there's a summary of the article. And then there's a link to the source of the section. So this one, whether you're in the mood for live music at the Harbor Springs Halloween party or planning to indulge in some local treats at the Apple Festival, there's a little something for everyone. The haunted Halloween weekends are a must see. They got trick or treating. And then you can see the call to action. Here's the full lineup of events. Now, that gets a good click through rate. But the thing is, we're just linking to like Eventbrite. Like we're just linking to like the Chamber of Commerce page with all the events on it. We don't have to make a calendar. Now, you could, we have clients that do, but you don't have to. And what I like to do is I think of it, I don't know where I came up with this, but it's like I want there to be meat on the bone for these sections. When you're reading the Chris list, Nelson, I'm guessing you click on some stuff. But is it fair to say that you don't have to click to get the main point of what I'm covering?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely click on stuff, but I mean, the main thing is that you're summarizing everything in a way that's entertaining and engaging, and yeah, mostly not clicking on stuff.
Yeah, like it's not, hey, there's some events this fall, click here to see them. He's mentioning specific events. So you don't want anyone to have to click. Your newsletter should be awesome if they never leave their inbox. But especially when you're curating, the right thing to do is to link to the source, right? Like that's kind of like the legal thing to do. Now, the rest of the sections would just follow that format. And a couple of the topics, like one of the kind of topics that does really good for click-through rates and replies is like urban development and planning. So you can see on the right there, grocery stores opening in Walnut Hills, eliminating the food desert that began with Kroger's departure. You can see they're promoting a listing on the left, right? You can see kind of the bullets, the details, why it matters, the big picture. Another thing a lot of our clients do is they use their newsletter as a distribution channel for their other great content. So this is a team that has really good YouTube videos, top things to do in Cincinnati right now. That links over for Glenda, STARS. The T is her top TikToks. We want to lean into the fact that she's creating great content elsewhere. So if you have a podcast, if you have a YouTube channel, if you are posting really cool stuff on social media, that can become part of your newsletter as well. And we certainly mix in things like market trends and listings, and you can do a quick summary. Hey, before you go, here's a couple articles for you before you go. And we always have a little bit of a signature that's just like, hey, we hope you love the email. Thanks for reading it. I always try to say thanks for reading the whole thing, because it's like, if you're at the very bottom, it means you read the whole thing. So this is kind of the anatomy of a perfect newsletter, right? It's a beautiful branded opening. It's 4 to 5 sections, and then it's, your call to action at the end. I do like to give a couple best practices on the signature, because we're we're passively selling with everything that we do. So I use the PS as a sales pitch pretty much every time. It's like, if 99.5% of the email is helpful, I'm not going to feel bad putting, a PS at the very, very end that says, by the way, buy my stuff or hire me. So you can see this one. Hey, if you haven't heard, mortgage rates are at their lowest since February of 2023. If you've been wanting to pull the trigger, now could be the time. So that's kind of like where I sell in the newsletter, is in the PS, to kind of keep it out of the way. Now, one of the benefits of like thinking of your newsletter as its own thing that's awesome is you can spin it out into content for other platforms. So this is an example of us taking the sections from a newsletter, but then redesigning them for social media. These were all Instagram posts. So if you're already putting all this work into creating a great newsletter, why wouldn't you get more from that and create stuff? We use, the client's brand kit. Like, we basically just push it over to social media as well. So when it comes to sections, I'll give you guys some of the most popular sections that you can choose from. But like, if you guys sign up for Ella, the first thing we do is we hop on a call and we figure out what the right sections are for you. It's different for every person, and there definitely wouldn't be this many sections. But I'm just kind of giving you guys an example of ones to choose from. Things to do, like that one's a no brainer. They bought a house from you, or they're thinking about buying a house in a specific area. So why wouldn't you showcase 2 or 3 of the best things happening right now and then link to the rest? I mentioned hyper local trending news. Like, we have a cul-de-sac where there's like a crash per week. That would be something that we would include in there. Zillow Gone Wild, that is basically like notable or sexy listings. Like, as an example, for Glenda, we put in mansions of celebrities that live in Atlanta. So we did Rick Ross, we did Cardi B, we did Steve Harvey, we did Shaq. There's lots of listings that have mass appeal. If Taylor Swift's album comes out, we would include Taylor Swift's real estate portfolio, right? Like, that way, kind of like jump on trends that are already in the media. The Orlando Reel, this is one of my guys. His name's Ken Pozek, and he has like pretty much the best YouTube channel in the industry. But he's a local media company. He is, and like, people care deeply about commercial development and urban planning. I know that sounds crazy, but school district getting rezoned, or they're expanding the parking lot at the local Publix. Like, that stuff is really valuable. When I say make the market make sense, there's such an opportunity in a newsletter to give the highlight reel of the stats. I would never do like a full blown market report, because there's way too much to include. People don't really use them anyway. But what I would ask myself, and I would use AI for this, I'm going to go into ChatGPT in a second and do some real stuff. But like, what I would be doing is I will be taking the stats from my local market and figuring out what are the 1 or 2 most interesting stats. And then how can I add some context and commentary to those? versus trying to just give numbers without any meaning. So that's what I mean when I say make the market make sense. Netflix and chill and Sports Center, those two are kind of, they go together, but I would have a section that's like your passion. Like we try to include like Andrew Himes, he loves to golf. Our guy up in Wisconsin, the Star team, he loves to fish. We have a client up in New England, they're addicted to streaming and Netflix and watching movies and shows. One of our clients in Kansas City, they love sports, the Royals, the Chiefs, the local women's soccer team. Like they're sports fanatics. So you can include something that's close to your heart. We have a lot of our clients that support a lot of charities or local businesses, right? So that can also be in there. And then Pie Fest, that one sounds so weird, but this is the time of the year, Nelson, where people do the pie giveaways, Brian Buffini style. And if you have a client event or you're doing a pumpkin patch or you're doing, right, like don't forget to include your own events in your newsletter. So let me stop there. Are there any questions, Nelson, that we can cover before I go into sources? Because this feels like a good, like natural
Sure.
spot to take some questions.
So I had one question for you, and then I'll read some of the questions in the chat. But I'm
Mhm.
wondering, like, for is there like an ideal client for Ella, like something that they have in common with their market or their, how they market themselves, or
Yeah, we work mostly with, top agents and teams that have a large database of past clients. So if you have, now I will say this, if you told me, Nelson, that I can have 300 people on my list, but they're legit past client sphere, or 3,000 Facebook leads, the 300 people is way more valuable. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like, I don't like to say, oh, if you have more than 1,000 emails, if you have more than 5,000 emails, it's not really about the size of your list, but that can matter for sure. I would say if you have, 100 or more past clients, if you're doing, two or more deals every month, we're pretty much going to be perfect for you because you're going to have a budget, because we're not free. We're not crazy expensive either, but you're going to have a budget and you're going to be too busy. If you're a newer agent and you don't have a lot of traction yet, you don't have a budget for something like Ella, you're basically getting the blueprint. So I would say our ideal client profile are top agents and teams that want to outsource with quality. A lot of them have tried to do it in house. They've tried to hire a VA and they never really got it right.
got it. Okay. And then I have some questions from the chat. So maybe the first question
Sure.
is, for an agent who's kind of just starting out, would you recommend a full-blown newsletter or maybe starting with more of a market snapshot?
No, I would absolutely do a newsletter because again, it has mass appeal. Like now, don't get me wrong. If you have Fellow or HomeBot, there's some really good tools. Feel free to mention them, Nelson, if you have one that
Sure.
you guys like. But like everybody that that you have their home address should certainly be on some kind of like monthly data report. But I don't count that as a newsletter. The newer you are, and the more people that you want to get in front of, the more mass appeal your newsletter should have. Now, I'll be honest, if I got 50 people in my database, I got thousands of people on social media, probably not going to think a whole lot about my email newsletter. But I would say it's a good habit to get into because it gives you scripts that you can use for videos. It gives you prompts that you can use to turn the content into graphics. By the way, it makes you an expert on your area, which I think is also something that like the secret sauce of the Chris list is like, I'm just smarter than everybody because I spend 3 or 4 hours a week, reading all this stuff. You could imagine there's a lot of stuff I don't include, Nelson, that I just sort
Sure.
of like skim past.
Yeah. That's the hardest part, right? Is killing your darlings, cutting all the stuff that just,
Yeah, good
that
is the enemy of great.
yeah.
I find stuff every single week that like didn't quite make the cut, but I still consumed it.
Sure. Okay, so next question here. This is less an email question, more a video question, I guess.
Mhm.
Can you thrive by using YouTube for video? I'm not a TikTok person. I think the question is more so, what platform do you most recommend for video at the moment?
Well, YouTube, but it's totally different. Short, like your
Short
email
from, yep,
newsletter, right? If I have the Brazelton Buzz as an example, or the Chris list, what I would do is I would use the Brazelton Buzz, the whole thing, as a YouTube video. And I would go
got it.
through the whole thing just like a newscaster would, 15, 20-minute talk through. YouTube wants longer stuff. YouTube wants chapters like with different stuff. Like that's one of the cool things on YouTube right now is that every section of your video gets indexed in Google as well, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But I would also take each individual section and I would do short 30 to second vertical videos. So if I have a section with things to do, I would just be like, there's 2 events you do not want to miss in Brazelton this month. Make sure you're here. Make sure you're here. I'll be there. The reasons you should go. If you see me there, say hello. Like you need to do both ideally. Um, YouTube is a little bit of a longer game, but here's what's crazy. So I have a business partner that I work with on Ella that also does YouTube channels for the top agents and teams. Okay. So we're all about hyper local content, right? Newsletters, social,
Yeah.
YouTube. And this is just so mind blowing. 70%, Nelson, this is crazy. 70% of the views on these YouTube channels is on a smart TV.
Oh,
Think about that.
yeah,
So
that's actually that's insane. Yeah.
you're hopping between Netflix and you're hopping between Netflix, Hulu, Prime, YouTube, right?
Yeah.
So the point I'm making there is that if you're only doing YouTube, you would definitely miss out on a ton of eyeballs for short vertical videos on social. But if you're only doing those, you're definitely missing out on YouTube as well. And we can do a YouTube class, bring Andrew on at some point in the future if people want us to. This is why I like to have more time, Nelson, because this allows us to go deep. What other questions do they have? I see a bunch of them
Sure.
coming in.
Yeah, there's a bunch. So let's go. Let's try to go rapid fire through a couple.
Yeah,
One is, do you work with Canadian realtors who need Canadian content?
we sure do. Yeah, we work with 2 of the best real estate teams in all of Canada, Peggy Hill. They happen to both be Remax. The Golfi team is the #1 team in Remax, #2 Remax team worldwide. Peggy Hill has been a top agent forever. So Ella is handcrafted, one of a kind. It's not a tool, it's not a tech. It's a service. It's a person that you're hiring to do your newsletter. So we can work with that in any market. We could do it in Europe. We could do it in Australia. Beacon, side note, is relying heavily on a data feed to create the reports. And so Beacon is not in Canada, but Ella is.
Got it. Another question on hyperlocal. So we got an agent who is has leads across the entire state of Utah. Would you recommend a newsletter
Mhm.
for the entire state of Utah? Or would you recommend segmenting and having newsletters for smaller market segments?
The smaller the better because then it's just more relevant. But there are going to be times like for Ken Pozak, for Glenda, Glenda should focus on most of Atlanta. There's some areas of Atlanta she shouldn't focus, just like there's areas of every market that just maybe like too far, not your price point. You're not willing to drive there at night. Like
Yeah.
there's reasons people should avoid certain areas if they need to. But there are going to be times where a whole city makes sense. If you're doing business in all of Utah, go for it, but I think they said they have leads from the whole state.
Yep.
Like what I would do is I would say, let's pull up your Zillow map of where your business comes from. Right. And let's look at the map, and where the most dots are is going to be the most part of the newsletter.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, there's a couple questions here. One is, what's the lowest limit for Ella? Which I think they're asking, maybe
For
the
the
lowest
database
send
size.
frequency. Oh, okay, or
Yeah.
maybe the database side. Yeah.
Yeah, if you guys want to, if you can drop in the chat, it's just ellaemail.com. Ella email. I know the team put that in the chat a couple times.
Yep.
And we start out monthly and it's $4.99. And then as you go to bi-monthly and weekly, the cost per newsletter goes down a lot. So $4.99 gets you the monthly newsletter, the social media content. We turn all of that into video scripts as well. And then we also do something I'll show in a few minutes called a conversation starter, which is kind of the peanut butter to the jelly of the newsletter. So newsletters are for referrals and brand, right? And nurturing. And then the conversation starter is for like listing appointments and like conversions. So what we're doing is we want as many people as possible to read the newsletter so that they love us. And then we segment the ones that read it. And then 2 weeks later, we send them a plain text like, hey, what's your dream price? If you could sell your home for any price, would you? Stuff like that to get the conversations going. So yeah, Ella includes all of that for the monthly. What was the other
That's great.
question?
Um, Here's a longer question. So since repeat buys from a client have grown from 7 years to around 11 or 13, depending on who you believe, how can email
Mm-hmm.
marketing make an impact on this? Can it break this pattern or develop active referrals while you wait a decade for the next move?
Well, that's such a good question. See, that's
Yeah.
the kind of question that gets a book. I'm going to give a book to all of them, but that's a really well thought out question. I don't know who asked it, but well done. Uh, Number one, this is the stat. I don't even know why it's not in the slides. 90% of people said their realtor did a good job, and 11% of them used them again. So, and that's true whether it's 3 years later, 5 years later, 12 years later, right? I would say that in a world where the second transaction takes way longer, I still want referrals throughout that process. Like, I want people to remember me and to think I'm smart. And the issue is like, if you only do social media, which I love, like go to my Instagram, like it's fire. I get millions of views, thousands of likes. Like I get that stuff, but I can't show my true expertise in an Instagram post. So I like being able to do a newsletter because it allows me to go a little bit deeper, allows me to go a little bit more in depth. So yeah, I would say the longer the sales cycle, the more important the newsletter, because like first of all, if you do a great job, people don't forget you. It's just that so many other people are vying for their attention. Like I'll give you a good example. My first house, I used a guy named Todd Schroth because he was a curator client. But during that process, he lived like 40 minutes away. He was just doing me a favor. So he did a great job, but I didn't use him again. So the second time I used Veronica Figueroa. She's literally, her thing was the queen of Avalon Park. Like that's where I was moving. So second time I used Veronica. Well, she did a great job too. But guess who lives across the street? Joe. Joe Stout. Like everybody knows a lot of realtors. You know what I'm saying? Joe lives 2 doors down from me. He's a realtor. I walk past his house every single day. And so, yeah, like I've asked him a couple questions about real estate, and there's a chance I would use him on the third one. So, yeah, you got to keep in touch with really good stuff. I think that's a must.
Here's another question. If I were to hire Ella as a way to get started, could I eventually take it over in-house? Would we have access to it, ownership of it?
Yeah. I mean, there's not well, to be clear, we're using your stuff and it's all one of a kind and it's all yours. Like we don't give people the prompts that we use per se, but there's no secret proprietary, like I mean there is, but there's not. You know what I'm saying? So if we provide you the blueprint and we help you become consistent for 3 to 6 months, great, take it over. But I think the past predicts the future. So, could you take 6 Ella newsletters create a custom GPT, feed those, and say, do more like these, you could, but it doesn't really work as well as you'd think it does. I'm just telling you, with all of our expertise, the quickest you can do an A+ newsletter is 2 to 3 hours. So for a lot of people, they're just like, I'm not going to do that. I'd rather be prospecting. I'd rather be networking. But yeah, you can quit anytime. All the newsletters we wrote continue to be yours because they're in your email tool. We don't have an email tool.
And then one more question here.
Yeah.
With LA email, do you do everything for us, or do we still need to do some work?
Well, it's helpful when the client wants to work with us, but they're hiring us to do it. So we work with any platform. It doesn't matter what CRM, what email tool you have. If you don't have a great email newsletter tool, we recommend certain ones: Beehive, ConvertKit. Some people are using MailChimp. Some people use Flowdesk. Like we will analyze the right one for the client. But yeah, we do it for you. The goal is that we go really deep together on the first couple calls. We get the brand dialed in, we get the sections, we get the tone, the brand voice dialed in, but we're sending it for approval every single week. So as an example, if I send you the approval, Nelson, and you're like, "Hey, I don't want to promote this event. Like I would never go to a reggae event. I feel like a fraud. Can you find a different one?" Absolutely. Sometimes we'll put a listing in and they'll say, "Hey, that listing's actually about to go under contract. Can you do a different one?" So yeah, it's a collaborative process. It's just that we're doing 95% of it. Also, if there's something, we basically do outreach at the beginning of the month and say, if there's anything you want us to include, let us know. But they don't have to send a whole lot. They just kind of give us direction and then we take it from there. Someone asked, can you use FUB? Follow Up Boss is not an email newsletter tool. They do have batch emails, and there's ways to kind of hack it. Same thing with like Lofty, Lions Desk, Boomtown, Commissions Inc. Like they all technically have an email tool, but we would actually recommend that you use one that integrates with those like MailChimp, Flowdesk, and with things like Zapier, kind of integrate any of the ones that you want together. Like you can have Beehive and you can sync it to FUB. So my favorite are Kit. That's the one I use for the Chris list. Kit.com used to be called ConvertKit. And I also use Beehive. I love it. Beehive's like a cool modern platform. It kind of turns every email into a blog post as well. Active Pipe, Gina, is more of an actual email marketing platform. So that one we can typically work with. Let me get back into this, Nelson, because these are great
Yeah.
questions, but we're kind of at a point where I'm kind of going to cover a lot of the answers as we just keep going here, but good stuff. And let me just put my email in the chat for everyone that gets the book for asking a question. Just email me your shipping address, chris@ellaemail.com. So the next piece of this is sources, right? You need great sources if you're going to create great content. So I got a couple pro tips for you guys. I'm going to pull up a site called SparkToro. And this is one that most people have never heard of, Nelson. Have you heard of it?
No.
No? Okay. This one's cool. And you live in Colombia. Where did you live in the US before you
New
moved?
York. New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put in New York. Was it New York City or was it Long Island?
Long Island. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm going to put in Long Island. And then I'll just put New York. So you go here and you put in your city name, put in your state name. And what SparkToro does, it's super cool. And I think you get five free searches per month without having to pay. So what this actually does is it goes around and it finds all the most popular social networks in each area. It shows which search engines they use. It finds all the most popular websites and it shows you how many visitors they get. So here's newsday.com, longisland.com, iloveny.com. You see, I Love NY gets 200,000 visits a month. right? There's some hidden gems, greaterlongisland.com, stopandshop.com. It finds YouTube channels, it finds podcasts, it finds highly popular keywords. So 4th of July, Long Island. It finds the most popular social media accounts. It even finds Reddits and subreddits about that area. So when I'm, kind of first hopping in here, that's a good place to start
Well, and that's
because
free.
now, yeah, that's free.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
Sparktoro.com. Another one that's really cool that is also free, but I paid because it was like they gave a good deal where it was just one-time payment for lifetime access. It's called answerthepublic.com. This is another great one where when you're looking for ideas or sources, so I'll go here and I'll put in Orlando, Florida. That's where I live. And this does something similar where, it'll show you like keyword searches, but what it's doing is it's actually showing you what people actually Google. So what are people in Orlando actually searching? So this is a crazy one, but 800 times, that was crazy. 800 times, 823,000 times this year, someone has searched for a magician in Orlando. So like that is a perfect example of like the best 3 magicians in Orlando. That would be a perfect section of a newsletter. That would be a perfect blog post. So you get to see all these different things people are searching. I like how they do the wheel. So it basically shows you like what are people actually searching related to that. So how far is it from the beach? What's the closest beach? What's the prettiest beach? Is Orlando a city or a state? Let's hopefully not get any of the leads that ask that question. Here's one at the top. Is there anything fun to do in Orlando besides Disney? Is there anything fun to do for adults, right? How should I spend the day? Are there any free things to do? So this is a really cool resource called answerthepublic.com. And you can, click over to TikTok, click over to Instagram. It shows you all of those different platforms. So those are both free. Super cool. I'm guessing like 99% of the people didn't know what Spark Toro was. Unless you've been on one of my calls before, I will say. I'll take some credit for that.
Yeah, I'm guessing a lot of people are also wondering, what to include in their newsletters, and that I wasn't aware of either. I think I've heard of Into the Public before. Spark Taro is new to me.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what do I put in mine? Right. And so that's kind of like saying, is there demand for what I'm supplying? Basically that's what those sites do. We already mentioned other newsletters. Like, I think other email newsletters are one of the best sources. There are people that I follow on Twitter, by the way. It says Lance, Lawrence, and Mike. Like, you're probably like, who the heck are those guys? Lance Lambert, he has a platform called Resi Club. He shares some of the best stuff I've ever seen about real estate data, charts, graphs, super interesting stuff. Okay. Then there's Lawrence, which is Lawrence Yun. That's the NAR, not NAR's Twitter, NAR research. So again, charts, graphs, data, trends, insights, super cool. And then the third one is my buddy Mike Simonson. He's now the chief economist for Compass. He also founded Altos Research, so super smart guy. And same thing. So people, should be your sources, right? The other places that are really worth checking are like hyper local Facebook groups. So what I'll do is I'll go into a Facebook group like ours is called the Avalon Voice, which basically just people arguing with each other. But like go into the local Facebook groups and see what the longest conversations are about. That's a good idea for something you could create. Same thing with Nextdoor, right? Neighborhood level chat forums. But what I want everyone to do, and like for me, I use BAM, Broke Agent, I use Inman, I use the Blueprint, which is a email newsletter. But what I like to do is take all of these sources once I find them and get them into a Google sheet with a link. So I can just come in here every single day that I need to and just go straight to these. So this is sort of like my king of the hill. I have everything here. So I don't have to do Google searches if I don't want to. Just go right here. Like I know Gong has a ridiculous blog. They have one of the best blogs in sales and 6 cold email examples you'll want to steal right now. 12 sales discovery questions that pinpoint pain and clarify solutions. Like, so I take my sources incredibly serious, but with ChatGPT and then also Perplexity, the AI does a really good job with sources too. So I'll go into ChatGPT and say, what are the best local restaurants that are in 32828 that opened in the last 12 months. And so they literally search the web when you do that. I could have Googled that, right? But I just prefer the chat back and forth. So it's searching for me. It just found a bunch of them. Sushi Suzuki, Orlando Weekly did a write up 25 new restaurants that opened this summer that aren't big names. That's like a perfect article to use in a newsletter. And I'll give you another really good pro tip here, Nelson. What I want to do is I want to actually go to the source. Okay. Do not trust AI with a link. This is kind of the like Zen learning.
Yeah,
It'll
I've made
mess
that
up quite
mistake.
a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. You do not trust it with a link. So what I do is I go all the way to the bottom. It's kind of goofy, but I go to the bottom. Okay. And I copy from the bottom up because that just does it faster. And then I take that, I'll grab just the title and the article, right? And then I just say, summarize this for my email newsletter, pick the best 4 from the list for people over 40. Like, let's just say my demographic is, I don't work with young people, right? So I'll tell it to summarize it. I'll paste it, the whole article I just pasted. And you're going to see like it writes a pretty good summary. Bourbon steak inside the Dolphin Hotel at Disney, Sparrow. And then I usually have to go back and forth a little bit. And I'll say, grab me links to their websites and Instagrams, right? And then it'll go do that for me. Like, this is where the time savings is really pretty huge. Anytime we feature a link, and I'll show you, like, I'm kind of really getting into the weeds here, but I think people appreciate that. I'll even go into the menu, right? And I will also like, usually I focus on the entrees, but I'll do the same thing and I'll copy the menu, right? Or download the menu or screenshot the menu, right? And then I'll say, go back over here and say, drag it in, write a bullet list focused on 3 specific dishes, right? People talk about hyper local, Nelson. This is hyper local, right? Like it's a local restaurant. It opened recently. I've got the links to their stuff. Now it's talking about the hay smoked tomahawk. It's talking about the Maine lobster pot pie, right? Like that's crazy. And then the other one that I use, do you ever use Perplexity, Nelson, or no?
I don't. Luke from our team he's our chief product
Yeah.
officer. He's a huge fan of it for research. I'm just
Yeah, it's
ChatGPT.
it's this is a really good one because like I'll be honest, half the time ChatGPT gives you links that don't even work. So I like to say things like new links that are verified to work that don't have a a paywall that are from the last 60 days. Like you kind of have to massage it a little bit. Uh, best urban development stories about Long Island. Okay. So this is going to be like 100% links, and 100% of them work, which is really nice. So they're revitalizing downtown across Nassau and Suffolk. It's a big transit initiative. And then it also does really good suggested searches based on that first search. So but here's what I really am trying to build towards. Okay. And I don't know where my slides went. Somewhere. Uh-oh. I think I lost my slides. Yeah, I think I closed the tab. I'll get them back.
Sure. Yeah, while you're finding that,
Yeah.
with the Perplexity, what do you have? Just
Mhm.
the standard account? Do you have a paid account?
I'm kind of a nerd, so I have, I think, a pro account for basically everything.
Yeah.
Um, but I use like I do most of my research from ChatGPT. Perplexity is like one of the few ones that actually don't pay for the advanced option.
Mhm.
Um, there we go.
And so
Sources tab.
Perplexity, just for links and sources, ChatGPT
Yeah,
for.
Perplexity, you can use the free one. It'll find you good links. You don't have to be a pro there. I have
Got it.
Claude Pro. I love Claude for creative writing, and I create most of my social media content through Claude, and then I create most of my newsletter through ChatGPT. But I'm gonna jump ahead a couple slides here because I want to make sure we get to this. So
Sure.
the way that you do this properly is I just showed you the research prompts. Okay. Then I showed you the summary prompt, right? Where I copied it, pasted it, summarized it. And I could have been way more specific, dude, right? I could have said under 500 words. Like I could have did way more. I'm just doing a training. I'm not going to go that deep. The other prompt that a lot of people forget though is the brand voice prompt, which is how do you apply your vernacular? Like Glenda Baker says y'all and sweet tea, and Brad Coy from San Francisco never says y'all, right? Amit is in Miami and his clientele all wants to be celebrities and famous. So the language he would use, knowing who his audience is and knowing who he is different. So you really want to have three prompts. One that helps you find the content, one that helps you summarize it, and then you apply the brand voice prompt to the summary. But here's what's so cool. Have you built, Nelson, a custom GPT? Have you built
I,
one? I'm sure you have. No?
I have, yeah.
Okay. Let me know in the chat before I go through this because I can't go crazy deep, but I want to know in the chat. Have you ever built a custom GPT? A custom, not a prompt, a GPT. Okay. Mostly knows. I'm guessing a lot of you are thinking, I don't really know what that is. Like, I get it. So I was guessing it would be no. There's a few I don't knows. So here's what this is, Nelson. Everything we've done so far, we can actually create something now that we can use over and over with one click. So I'm going to show you guys this. This will kind of be what we wrap up with is like, if I go over to ChatGPT, you're going to see on the left side here, mine's a little different than you guys's because I'm going to have a couple different GPTs. You can see right here, GPTs, the Chris list, Beacon, Elevate, newsletter link curator. Okay. So to build these, you go into the Explore tab, which you guys all have. And then you go to the top right and you hit create. Okay. This is where you configure it. But I'm going to show you, guys one of mine that's already configured. So I'm going to go to my GPTs and I'll do the Chris list because that's the one that I use the most. And this is kind of the closest to what you guys would do. So what I've done with this GPT is look at all the old Chris lists that I've already given it, Nelson. I already gave it like 15 versions of the Chris list. I already gave it all my stats and open rates and all the most important things. I gave it instructions, right? Generate newsletters based on past editions using only real and verified content. I describe C content. H, see all this, guys? So this is set it and forget it. Once you do this, you have a GPT and you can see over here what it looks like. I have a couple different options that are all one click. I can ask it to generate the full newsletter, which by the way, I very, very rarely do because it's not as good as I would want it to be. What I do is more stuff like this: generate 3 topic ideas per section. So that is coming from over here, called a conversation starter, right? And so now when I'm logging into ChatGPT, I'm going straight into my Chris list GPT as an example. And I'm saying, give me 3 topics per section to choose from. If it doesn't give me good ones, I ask for it again. This is on the thinking model, so it's going to take a little bit longer. But you can see, hey, these are all verified. They're new. $9 coffee. Is it actually worth it, etc. I have another one that's just for links. I don't use it for writing at all. And this one, you can see the prompt: find wild stories in marketing, sales, tech, or AI. So same thing. That is literally a GPT for just that one section at the top. And so it gives me these ideas that I can use. But if you would have seen some of the other prompts, the next one is how to find step-by-step how-to guides. The next one is find research. You see what I'm saying, Nelson? So like each one of my sections of my newsletter has its own one-click prompt. So my advice for you guys would be to like spend a lot of time creating a custom GPT once, and then that's going to pay itself over and over again. The other thing I'll show you guys real quick, because I mentioned Claude, you can do the same thing in Claude. It's just called a project instead of a GPT. So this is my Chris AI. Well, look at what I fed it. I fed it all 3 of my books. Like these are the whole book. I've written 3 books, written 4. Those are all of my books. And then these are all the things I've created with Claude so far. But because I'm doing it as a project, it uses all of this every time I do something new. So I really recommend like taking that path of, spending the time to do the custom GPT. I'll fly through the last couple of things here. Subject lines are critical. If you go to subjectline.com, it's super easy to use. Put your subject line in that you're thinking about using. But I'll give you guys the pro tip on subject lines. You always do the subject lines last. Write the newsletter, copy the newsletter, give AI the newsletter, and say, write me 10 subject lines and preview text, which is like the sentence you see in Gmail before you open, that will get the highest open rate possible. So the subject line you actually do last because you already have all the data. Merge codes is something that you can get really creative with, like especially if you have a lot of data in your CRM. So like if I'm doing a follow-up boss email, I might use a merge code for source. And what that would do is say, hey, Nelson, first name, I got your information from Zillow about a year ago. How are you? And so that merged your name, it merged source, it merged how long you've been in my database. And you can do that in the subject line. You could do that in the email, the outro. Like, so merge codes are something I would spend some time figuring out. I mentioned earlier, like the best segments to create. So I would have segments for leads versus past clients versus other agents, segments for source, segments for behavior. I mentioned that one earlier. If they open the newsletter, they go into a different segment that we then send the conversation starter. And then you could do segments by price. You could do segments by length in database. And then you can use that in the copy. The last couple things, we've got 8 minutes left, are email templates you guys can all use right away. And remember, you get the replay, you get the slides. But before I do the last 5 minutes, do me a favor. Let me know in the chat what you guys think of the class today, because I want Tristan to see this, even though he didn't show up. I want Nelson to see this. Like, do you guys want me to come back and do another class? Because we talked about this, Nelson. Email marketing doesn't necessarily have mass appeal. There's Anita. Glad I came. I almost didn't. Excellent. Awesome. You're amazing. Thank you, Luann. Never hear that too many times. Overwhelming. Good, Karen. Good. It should be a little overwhelming. But like, if there's something to spend time on, I believe it's email marketing. Nelson, you guys should take all those comments, by the way, and use that when you post the replay. Use that when
Yeah.
you do the email, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm reading these comments, and now you guys are seeing why I bring up Chris in every webinar. He's the man, and this is fantastic. And I asked him too. I'm like, man, can't we do this in like 30 minutes or six? You know, he wanted to go 2 hours, so
Mm-hmm.
90 minutes was like the compromise, because he wanted to go deep. And man, I think every inch of this webinar was just awesome.
Thank you. Good to see you, Hilda. Good to see you, Neil the Deal, in the chat there too. Thank you guys for the nice comments. So, rapid fire faux quiz. What is that? If you do a faux quiz, you will get your highest click through rate possible. You guys can just take a screenshot. Again, we're going to give you guys the slides tomorrow. But this is basically like, hey, can you guess the price? Only 1 in 4 people get it right. I just listed a home. It's in Timber Creek High School. It's got this. Try to guess the price. Okay. The reason it's a faux quiz is all 4 of those links go to the same place. They all go to the listing details page on my website, which of course has the price. P.S. Let me know if you guessed right. So this will get you, like, in a world where like 2% click through rate, 5% click through rate, this email will get like 50% click through rate. It's crazy. So that's kind of a fun way to share a listing with your whole database. Conversation starter, I mentioned earlier, short and sweet. Subject line, just out of curiosity. Hey, Susie, right? I talk about merge codes. I know rates are high and that makes buying a challenge, but if I had a house that checked off all your must haves and the price was within your budget, would you want to make an offer? That is what I mean by a conversation starter. And you can see, like, look at Patel in this is the actual screenshot of their inbox. Hi, Katie, please send me the listing. I will review and let you know. Hi, Katie, it would really depend on the price. I have to sell one of the properties I already own. Hey, that's a good reply. Like, okay, I'll help you sell that one and then we'll get it figured out. The apology email is a cool one, where I did this one and it killed it, Nelson, where I said Amazon messed up your order, because everybody opens that, like, because everyone's always ordering on Amazon. But basically, they changed the release date of my book, yada, yada. So I said Amazon screwed up. It got my highest open rate ever. You can do this and say, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you this. We had a listing that went on the market last week. It's already under contract and I should have sent it to you. So that's called the apology email. This next one is called the Zestimus. Everybody loves the Zestimate. This is the Zestimus. And this is basically just saying, hey, the Zestimate in our area can be wrong. The CEO actually sold his home for 40% less. Would you like his Zactimate? You know, that's kind of the general concept of that one. The 9-word email, I think I kind of made this famous with the conversion code. But when I talk about segments, this is a Hail Mary that you would send to all of your unresponsive leads to kind of give them one last shot at like replying. And literally, it's 9 words or less. So, are you still looking to buy a house in Ohio? That's the whole email. And some people put like sent from iPhone, like they really wanted to seem like it just one email. Like, we used to do this at Curator. We would say, can I take you off our list? Do I have your permission to take you off our list? You haven't opened anything in months. So just short, sweet, but you'd be surprised how many people will actually reply to those. I'm going to skip this one because I covered it earlier. And then the last thing I want to crescendo with is what I call the most important email. The most important email that you guys write. And that is the email that you send to your seller when their home's on the market. Okay. This is something that's critical, but just like a newsletter, it's time consuming. You have to log into all these different places to look for the data. When we created Beacon, that was the problem that we set out to solve was how can we take something that takes almost 90 minutes per listing per week? How can we just innovate and make it take 3 minutes? And so this email that you're seeing, your listing's live on Zillow. We haven't had any inquiries so far. Here's a couple price reductions. Home in your areas are averaging 2 days on the market. We're doing social media campaigns. View the full report here. So this is called a beacon. And this took Katie less than 5 minutes. Has an executive summary with everything that's happening with the listing. It tracks all the online performance based on platform. It shows all the different campaigns that she's doing to market the property. It has the showings and open house details. It actually analyzes the comps and puts all the different comps on a map as well. And then it shows all the activities of everything that she's been doing. This is called Beacon. And what I wanted to offer you guys, if you go to buildyourbeacon.com, buildyourbeacon.com, if you use the promo code Chris List, because this is, we're talking about email today. That's my newsletter. Go to buildyourbeacon.com, use the promo code Chris List. You're going to get a 14-day free trial. And then if you decide that Beacon is right for you, you're going to get 20% off for life because you're actually getting Beacon before it's available to the public. As a thank you guys for tuning in today. Buildyourbeacon.com, promo code Chris List, and you will be able to create reports like this in minutes, not hours. I'd love you guys to check it out. Let me know what you think. The right person for that is a person with listings. It doesn't work in Canada, and it doesn't help if you don't have any listings. Last thing I'll say here, Nelson, is the phone still matters. Clicks should turn into calls. So I talked about you send the newsletter, you open it, you send the right hook. Inside of your email newsletter, there's going to be some calls to action that are more important than others, right? So what I would recommend doing is when you see people clicking on these really important links, you should still pick up the phone and call these people. But when you're doing that, they know who you are. They just got a newsletter from you. That was great. So like in my world, I would go to Beehive. That's the one that I use for Ella. And I would go into, well, let me sign in. They logged me out, of course. Oh no, hold on. I need to get my Ella email.
Sure. And while you're doing that, I have a question
Yeah.
for the chat. If we do another webinar with Chris, would you guys want like the full 2 hour experience, or would you prefer if we keep it short? So I'm seeing a lot of people. I think there's a lot of people that want the full 2 hour, but
Yeah. Too long for Jim. That's okay.
yeah,
And you can watch it in chunks too, right? Afterwards.
yeah.
For me, I'm trying to be different and unique from other trainers and, coaches in the industry. So for me, like being able to go really deep like this, I love it. I understand that it takes a little while, but yeah, awesome. And then, so just what I was going to show here is like, so this is the newsletter that we sent, 66% open rate, right? You can see the performance. All the tools have these stats. But what I'm looking at here, Nelson, is, this was the invite to this webinar, right? AgentFire. This was Judy's example email, which is the agent we featured in the newsletter. But this one, see this one? That one was in a call to action that said, do you want to hire Ella? And so that had 12 clicks. So literally what I do, I practice what I preach. I go in, I take a screenshot of these 12 people, and then I DM it to my sales guy and say, go call these people. They are interested in Ella. So that when it says, clicks equal calls, that's what I mean by that. Um, Anybody that wants to join Ella, there's not a promo code for that, but there are upgrades that I can give you guys for free. One is a custom newsletter template. So we will build you a beautiful newsletter template for your new newsletter, no charge. The other one is turning the newsletter into content for social media and video scripts. That is usually $149 per month. We can include that as well. Go to ellaemail.com. If you scroll down, there's buttons to join, or just email me, chris@ellaemail.com. I can answer any questions you guys have. But this has been fun, man. This is fun, Nelson. I could do this all day.
Yeah, this is great, man. And I would just highlight, kind of one important through line through all of this. What's happening in the industry right now is, we're still very much at a place where AI is still, I think, very, very far from replacing humans in most ways. And I think what you're seeing is AI is just being used as a tool that, especially when it comes to top agents and teams. And I do a lot of consulting. I work with a lot of
Mhm.
the top people in the industry, and they're just finding really good ways to use all of this stuff to just augment everything they're already doing. And like Chris said at the towards the maybe the middle of the webinar, it's important if you're going to just reach out with someone and touch them with crap. If you're going to send like a slop email, it's better off to just not do that. So now there's a kind of a unique opportunity to have personality and be unique at scale.
Mhm.
And so this is where I love services like Ella. I love services like Chris didn't get a huge opportunity to talk about but Beacon. I actually went through the whole. I went through the website yesterday with Luke, who's our chief product officer here. We're both fans of Chris, and I
Thank
just
you.
think it's brilliant because again it takes an individual aspect, one of the most important things that agents are doing, and it not only simplifies it but improves it. So, and I think there's
Mhm.
a lot of tools out there that are doing just that. That will take individual aspects of things that you guys are doing right now every day, and probably like wasting a lot of time and not only
Mhm.
simplify it but also improve it. And if you could do both of those things in one thing, that's how you should be sort of building your stack and augmenting or just using the technology around you to be able to help you like just get out there more
Yeah.
at scale, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And that's
If
that's where we're
something's
at right now.
better,
Yeah.
dude, if something's better and faster,
Yeah.
that's the ROI. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think that's the sweet sauce with AI right now is that again it's not replacing anyone. Like it's and you guys you scroll through your Instagram and you see people that are just they're like generating their captions now with AI. I don't know if this happens to you
Mhm.
guys or this happens to you, Chris, but with me it's like if I see people using M dash in their Instagram
Mhm.
captions, I'm just like screw this
Red
guy. Like
flag. Yeah.
yeah, just like
Yeah, what
just
and what I do for that is like in the instructions of the custom GPT that you build,
yeah, tell
you
them to
you can
remove it.
set those rules. Never use an M dash,
Yeah.
avoid AI jargon. Yeah.
Yeah, I've tried to do that.
Awesome, man.
It still includes M dashes for some reason, but I don't know.
Mhm.
Maybe ChatGPT 7 will figure that
I
out. But
delete
yeah,
every one. And by the
yeah,
way,
yeah,
I'm a writer. Most of the M dashes you can just replace with a comma, and it
yeah.
works exactly the same.
Actually, I replaced them with a dash. But I guess everyone has their strategy. So
Yeah.
yeah, Chris, man, we got to do this again. Maybe on
Awesome.
a AI topic would be cool. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. I think there's a ton of value shared here. Again, for everyone that's here, we'll send out the replay within roughly the next 24 hours. And yeah, anything else you want to mention or
That's it, man. I dropped my
on
link to
our?
Instagram.
Yep,
Say hello, send me a DM, let me know you're on the lab coat slash agent fire call today. And I'll hop over there. And just the last thing would be if you did ask a question that we, brought onto the live stream, don't forget to send me your shipping address and I'll hook you up. But yeah, hopefully we got a bunch of new Ella clients today. Hopefully we got a bunch of new Beacon customers today because you're right, Nelson. Like execution is really what matters. And you know this as a website provider, as a technology provider, you got to use the stuff you buy. So with
Yep.
something like a service, I feel really good because it's like, I know that we'll be consistent. I know that it will happen. We don't like people signing up for stuff and paying and never using it. Like, that's not good for anybody. So
Yep.
yeah, like, hedge your bet, hire a human, which is so funny as a way to end a call like this. But thanks everyone. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you, Chris. See you guys.